Hello, everybody. Well, I'm very happy to introduce you to Renata Ávila, CEO of the Open Knowledge Foundation. She will be moderating this very interesting panel about how we actually put in practice digital sovereignty, and we will learn some practical use cases from different governments. So with all that said, Renata, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, and it is a real pleasure to be back here and to be among one of the global examples of what communities, code, and collaboration, trust can achieve. And I think that it's one of the examples of digital sovereignty as something that you make, not something that you just talk about. And this will be like the main focus of this panel, instead of just talking and getting into tricky discussions about philosophies and checklists on who is really not doing what. We are going to talk about examples. And we are going to talk about practical examples in a moment. I mean, if we were having the conversation 20 years ago, it would be more utopical, more full of hope, absent of fear. You know, I guess that talking about this today in this global context is it has different meaning, and talking about digital sovereignty also today, it has a more prepared citizen with far more awareness than before on what we are talking about. I think that what we as a world has experienced in the last, I will say 10 years, but I will even go closer in the last 3 years, has been challenging things that we took for granted. A human rights system, independence and sovereignty of our countries, and even the ability to feel safe in our daily life, in our platforms, in uncertain about our future. Trust in our leaders has been like in constant decline, and even trust in our devices has been challenged. It's nothing new. I mean, all that we have seen is basically in practice what was already revealed by Edward Snowden and others. But now we don't know if what we have in our hands is surveillance tool, is a tool for our work, is something that is going to explode because someone randomly decided that you and the politics of your country are no longer welcome, or we live in a reality where the most important aspects of our daily lives can be turned off with a button, because someone who concentrates a lot of power with around also even more power decides this morning that what your prime minister said doesn't fit their agenda, and they can do so because they can do so. So we live in a world where like rules have been rewritten, that limits have been challenged, and I think that we live also in a world that many of our leaders are still in shock. What to do now? And instead, regrettably, instead of bold action towards the principles that we have defended for a long time, we are seeing timid action, timid and really lame action, siding with those who are like undermining our human rights, undermining our democracy, and destroying what we built with a lot of effort. So we are going to talk with three of the most remarkable people Europe has in the field, in walking the talk and doing. I mean, we are going to first talk about the trajectories and the projects that they have been working on, and how through their life, they have walked the talk, and how right now they are like taking the next step to fix this techno-autocratic reality that we are into, and to work building a little bit like multiplying the Decidim effect, building a possible digital commons future. To my left is, we are going to start with Francesca Bria. Francesca Bria, I think that in Barcelona doesn't need a detailed introduction, but she most recently has been the author of a very important report called the EuroStack. She's a doctor in economics. She has a long career in government, civil society, academia, and she has seen in the first line and understanding the inside game, the evolution of digital sovereignty. Francesca, you were here 10 years ago as CTO of Barcelona. And what I would like to understand is what happened in these last 10 years? How did you see the, I mean, in a very brief 7-minute statement, did the things get better? Because I remember, when you were here, we were citizen assemblies,
so long ago, right?
Citizen assemblies that deciding data governance. There were a big push for, sovereign technologies, democratic technologies, and Barcelona was the leading example of walking the talk on digital sovereignty. And Europe was looking up and copying it, and it was like a big movement around it. What happened in the last 10 years, and how do you see things now?
Thanks, Renata. Always great to be in Barcelona. We were outside talking with Galapin before, and she said, oh my God, they still say I was the former councillor. And Renata just started here, the former CTO of Barcelona, so yes. Well, I don't want to say we lost the war. You remember this was the sentence in the CCC, in the Chaos Computer Club, when after 20 years of activism, just after the Snowden revelation, they were asked, okay, what has happened in these 20 years of activism? And I remember the founders said, we lost the war, and they have written a manifesto that explained why the kind of liberating, progressive, empowering, democratic technological trajectory that we wanted to build was being hijacked by a new military-industrial complex, by authoritarianism, and by actually technological oligarchs, the tech oligarchs, that today are running the show. So I think this is a reality that we have to face. I think it's very important for us to understand that experiments like Barcelona, like Decidim, which obviously continues to be, I think, at the avant-garde of building technology for the public good, and understanding that sovereignty, I thought maybe let's be explicit here. It's not only about controlling infrastructure, controlling data, and having democratic control over key technological infrastructures, but is first of all popular sovereignty. And I think this was the starting point of our experiments 10 years ago, when Ada Colau became mayor, and then we got all called in to help her basically implement her program that was about empowering communities and people. And we had it very clear at that point that technological sovereignty or digital sovereignty, it wasn't just more state power. And it wasn't just, corporate power versus state power, but it was really popular sovereignty. So where do we start? In cities. How do we empower citizens, to make housing affordable, to fight climate change, to redistribute wealth, to basically be having more power as community. So this we understood very clearly, and we tried to walk the talk, meaning implementing that. Now, I think, I moved away from that experiment, and I did different things. I also was in the Italian government for a part of my trajectory as president of the Innovation Fund, where we tried to, empower European alternatives. But now I'm really focusing on bringing this agenda, which is the technological sovereignty, at a European level. So why I think this is very important to do, and why I think this is where our focus should be also as cities and as citizens. Because you cannot ignore, first of all, you cannot ignore the political economy of digital sovereignty. So although I have heard with a lot of, I really think it's very important, all the use cases that we heard before, the coalition of cities and, all the different ways to get citizens, to basically save democracy. I think, I'm actually really convinced that the alternative in Europe will be cities. Not only in Europe, actually. Let's face it, New York City, yay! For a long time, yay! It's like for me, I woke up this morning and I was finally a good news, after so long. So the alternative, and I see that again everywhere in Europe, the alternative will be cities, So I think what I'm hearing here is extremely important, but at the same time, I don't think we should underestimate that we cannot build an app, we cannot build a participatory, empowering technology on top of critical infrastructures that are weaponized by the tech billionaires and by a geopolitical situation that is really, at the core of it, has one enemy, and that enemy is democracy. Yes? So that enemy is democracy because basically democracy is the obstacle, yes, of a concentration of power that I think is unprecedented in the history of the Industrial Revolution. So when we see, this kind of build-up, so when we talk about AI is not just an add-on to Decidim. The AI, I just published, and I wanna finish for the first round, but I just published a pretty scary work that was very much on the front page of La Vanguardia last weekend, so I hope some of you has read it, which is called The Authoritarian Stack, which basically shows how the authoritarian tech complex is consolidated in the US, and how much money is going to military tech at the moment, and how the tech oligarchs or the tech billionaires in Washington are not just saying, at the beginning, Silicon Valley was about exit. We're going to build, our own city. We're going to build our cryptocurrency. We're going to defeat politics with technology. What they're doing now is very different. What they're doing now is taking the state in order to implement their post-democratic project. This is what's happening. And the critical infrastructure of the state, data, the operating system, which means, our own data, the software that they use for immigration, for welfare, for everything that has to do with our life, plus money, plus, military technology, and AI, which in the US is a largest infrastructure, NVIDIA, this company that is selling Europe a lot of the chips for which we are building our own infrastructure, is quoted in the stock exchange for 5 trillion. Now, anyone here that knows what 5 trillion evaluation company is? Honestly, I do not think we understand this. Because this is, I don't know if it's a bubble or a boom, maybe both, but it's certainly a Ponzi scheme. And all the tech billionaires are buying each other's shares so that they can build this trillion infrastructure that's going to be powered with nuclear energy, and that's taking away water, energy from communities, our data, and our industrial capability. Now, I don't want to make it too, the situation is what it is. And I don't think, here I'm not saying that Barcelona and Decidim has to build the alternative, but I think, yes, you are a part of the alternative. Yes. And that's why I think we can do a lot in order to say, we refuse that model. We actually refused that model. I'm sorry, I'm like heating up because, because I don't think it's enough to say we're kindly, gently building our own little alternative in the corner. And you know, maybe you billionaire, like, can please not deplatformize us? Please let us do our social media in your oligarchic thing. I'm sorry, this is not enough. We are at an historical point where we have to refuse that model, and we do have to build an alternative. And I finish, I do not think that the alternative will be European as like only Europe. Obviously not. We need all of the world in order to build an alternative, but it has to be an alternative. It has to be an alternative to the oligarchic tech complex that they're building. And it has to be about life, about people, and about democracy. And so I think, you know, we are up against something very strong at the moment. And I think we want to see Europe waking up again and not only signing Donald Trump's deals, like bending our head, and at the end of the day, because we need the US to defend Ukraine, we're giving everything else away. This is not possible, and I think I do really strongly believe that these kind of projects, that cities like Barcelona and many other cities around Europe, but also governments, one being Spain, absolutely on point, will help us to do something about it, which basically means defend democracy.
Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, and I do not envy being the next speaker.
Yeah, it's very difficult to top this, to be honest.
But we have to the left Alberto Gago, Fernández. He is part of the cabinet of Spain, and he is leading Spain 2030 digital agenda, as well as the Secretary of Artificial Intelligence and Digitalisation. It might be like, he might correct the exact names, but he is in charge of fixing this, basically. And there's two, phrases that are very cliche. One is knowledge is power, and other very cliche, but true with a lot of truth on it, is that technology is politics. And one of the interesting things that I have seen, that we all have seen, and is this bubble that Francesca is describing, is that somehow in the last 3 years we have seen the acceleration of and the merging of the two. Technology as politics at the highest level of all the governments, and the concentration of knowledge as power as never before humanity has seen, with the rapid leaps that we have seen in the development of artificial intelligence. And I was reading recently a position paper, the article, saying that now artificial intelligence and public AI, something that has been emerging, might be a new door to a new era of multilateralism, to a different, restructuring of the players and so on. So I understand that you are going to discuss today the strategy of Spain for that, and what you are about to launch. That is very, very, very exciting. So we need a presentation here, and then over to you.
Well, in the meantime, I also want to say that Francesca is not only all that you mentioned, but is also an advisor to the International AI Council of the government of Spain, of the minister. It's chaired by the Minister Oscar López for Civil Service and Digital Transformation. And I must tell you as well that when you were CTO of Barcelona, I was working in the European Commission as a policy officer dealing with data regulations. And one thing that the experience of Barcelona inspired the European Commission to introduce in the Open Data Directive what you did with public undertakings that are providing services to the city, which is you need to also share the data that you gather thanks to the public money through which you are giving us a service. So just to tell you that sometimes, I mean, you might not see it so bluntly and so publicly, but things that happen at cities level also influence European level, and I think this is I believe it was important to mention. And also to reply before I start with the presentation, which will be like 5 minutes max. So what you said of the United States selling the stack, this is happening already. I mean, in international gatherings where we participate, like the G20, the OECD, it's clear that they say there is already a stack. For all the developing countries, there's already a stack that is built by the big techs, and it's out there, and they are actually having a strategy to deploy it everywhere in the world. And with this, my president of the government, or our president of the government, Pedro Sánchez, was the first one who spoke openly in Davos about this issue. And I think there is a hope out there, because we try to make things change. It's not easy, it's not fast, but we are trying to develop this strategy to ensure that we have a power to decide and to implement what we understand as digital sovereignty. Thank you. Let me tell you how we are walking the talk, as Renata mentioned. Here, a ver? Or maybe we don't walk the talk. I don't know. Can someone press the next button? Okay. So since a year and a half, we decided that in order to talk about digital sovereignty, we also needed to showcase that there are instruments, technology that we produce that are bringing about this digital sovereignty, and also very much linked to linguistic sovereignty. This is why the Secretary of State for Digitalization and AI, Maria González Veracruz, and also the Minister for Digital Transformation, Oscar López, decided to start with building the first model, which is with more than 20% of training in Spanish and co-official languages, also in Catalan, but also in Aranese, or in Iranian. I don't know if it's the word in English for the language, but also in Galician, in Basque, and in other minoritarian languages. And we have already published 2 AI models, one on 2 billion and 7 billion, which are available for everybody in versions based, instructed, and also quantified. And we have also published a number of translation models that translate from the different languages, from Catalan to Spanish, from Basque to Galician, and so on and so forth. Apart from that, those models, what it's important is that in order for you to understand the comparison, models from big tech are trained in less than 5% of documents originally produced in Spanish, or in Catalan even less. And what we're trying to do here is to ensure that we gather all this data and we train the models with all the data that we have. Also, this is already available in Hugging Face, so that everyone can use it. And also, we have published a number of annotated data and data to evaluate the models in order to do the instruction. Also, other data and tools in order to create voice models, and also for translation, for automatic translation. So why this is important? Not only because you are building a public infrastructure on AI, but also because you are making it available for everyone to work on that. The issue that we have seen is that open source, and I'm sorry that this is in Spanish, because I don't know why, I thought it was going to be the discussion in Spanish, but there are two areas that we see as as a clear lever for engaging or achieving this digital sovereignty and also linguistic sovereignty. One is open source can be the way for more competitiveness in our economy. And I will explain a bit more about this later on, because basically you are not locked with a proprietary system, but you can use this open source resource or any other open source resource and create and build whatever your mind imagines. And also because it's a way to somehow land what we understand as digital sovereignty, because digital sovereignty is, as Francesca was saying, is not only about these big decisions that we have to make, but also about bringing technology to the life of people. And to bring technology to the life of people, you need that technology to be hyper specialized, meaning understand the context in where this technology operates, and also hyper localized, understanding the situational area where this technology is deployed. This is already understood by the European Union, and because of that, what we're trying to build on the basis of all these resources is to create an open source AI community in Spain that looks at three objectives. One is to boost the creation of AI systems based in this model Ávila, but on any other model as well, or any other open source resource that we have, but bring solutions to the market, bring solutions to social challenges, bring solutions that can cover challenges that SMEs have or micro SMEs have. Also, what we try to do with this open source community is to ensure that we change the business model from proprietary systems to bring in value add into the commercial offer, also with the talent that we have, meaning that we are not anymore the leaders of the model in itself, but we are the leaders in the system, in the subscription that you may have, in the adaptation that you may do on this AI model into a particular system, into the integration, and also into the maintenance of the solutions of AI, because that's what's going to bring a lot of power to the different little economic networks that we have in our country. And finally, what we see as well, and we believe that it's an important part of all digital sovereignty, is that this community can also be a pool of talent. At the end of the day, what happens is that you need people to work on technology, and for that you need specialized people, and this is a way to ensure that all these people get together, create things together, but also can be seen by companies in the different economies, and be hired in order to develop talent as well in those companies. One thing that's interesting, this is very much the presentation, but one thing that is interesting is that we don't only have the models 2B and 7B, we are also going to publish very soon a model on 40 billion, which is going to be even better than the ones that we have. And we are working with a lot of companies in order to ensure, companies that believe in digital sovereignty, to ensure to see what are their potential commitments to this community, be it in the form of hackathons, to organize hackathons in order to build solutions, or be it in the form of giving training to people in order to develop more specialized skills, for example, on model training or model specializing. And also, we are going to do that as well with a number of networks that are already implemented in the European Union, like the European Digital Innovation Hubs. I don't know if you are aware about this, but they are basically hubs that help SMEs and micro SMEs get solutions that they need, not only on AI, but on any other technology, and also with universities and the testing and experimentation facilities that are built across Spain, thanks to European Union action. And this is basically one of the many initiatives that we are trying to devise, as well with the International Council on AI that we have, in order to see how we land all this discussion about digital sovereignty into practical, operational initiatives that really respond to the challenges that we have.
Thank you so much. I will follow up with questions in the next round, because there's so many questions around this project. But we will take a plane or a train and go all the way to France. Sorry. With Virgile Deville. France is a very interesting place for any free software activist, and for example, from Open Knowledge Foundation, we have followed all the things that have happened at local, level and national level, not only with open data, with code and communities and commitments. And the key of that is people like you, actually. It is really, if I have seen any concrete and powerful results in any government in Europe, France is such an example of the granular community and the push bottom up towards that. So you will tell us, as I understand, a little bit more about that and what is going on now in France, and how do you see how France is walking the talk and living the digital commons and digital sovereignty. So over to you. Could you pass the...
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think it works. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So just to clarify, like France hires a lot of grassroots open source and digital commons advocate in the States, and that's what makes it special. Like everywhere, like COVID had a big impact on like more local initiatives. And what makes France special is that a lot of free software people is working for the government. And when we travel around Europe, we don't see that as much. Just to clarify, I'm not talking for the French state or the DINUM or whatever. I'm a freelancer who happens to be working in a team that's developing stuff that has to do with sovereignty, digital sovereignty. But yeah, I'm doing mostly product management, and I like digital commons. I was very involved with Decidim before. And now the place I'm working at is called DINUM. It's the French digital agency. If you could get me the next slide, but basically it's the entity responsible for France's digital strategy. As you might know, France is like a very centralized state. It's not like Spain, so we can do a lot of things at the central level, like identity, open data, even like centralized dematerialization services. And we are doing at DINUM now even like a digital workspace. So what is very interesting about digital workspace is that everybody uses it every day. Whatever your work is, you use text editing, video conferencing, collaborative file sharing. This is what gives power to the GAFAMs as well. We use social media, pretty much all of us, but we use digital workspaces pretty much all of the time as well. And when you think about it, like, GDPR was really cool, and we thought, yeah, we're going to regain our personal data. Did we really think of the collective knowledge that we are putting in there? Do we really consider that data as sensitive? I argue that it is, and it's not fairly well protected. And so I'm participating to these open source projects. I will talk a bit about We Make Commons later, because I think it's a key piece to autonomy at the popular level, like Francesca did. If I can get the next one. Yeah, so emojis are not displayed, but that's okay. So let's talk about like the institution side of things. The next one, please. So basically, last suite is a digital workspace. You have chat, you have a big file transfer, you have Airtable-like stuff, text editing, a bit like Notion, a bit like Visio, which is like a bit like Meet in Google, and email, of course. If I can get the next one as well. And basically, why we did that and why the DINUM was tasked with this is, so it was the one before, yes, is that COVID happened. In the state, at least in France, remote work was not a thing. Like, if you were a public servant, you would go to your office and you would work there, and you wouldn't work at home because everything was on a server at the office and there was no online collaboration. As COVID arrived, people were forced to work online as they couldn't get to the office anymore. So there was initiatives where they would put on free software for collaboration and do their thing, but also, they also contracted very massively to Zoom for teachers, or to Microsoft for collaboration online and stuff like that. And they realized, like post-COVID, they say, oh, so, okay, what are we doing about this? How do we centralize the effort? We're spending too much money. And also, like, there were a bunch of crappy initiatives that were deployed, and everything was really siloed. So I'm from the justice, I can't work with the interior. Why? Also because Microsoft is selling to one organization at a time because it's more convenient. It's because a large procurement of Microsoft wouldn't be possible, at least in France, because people would be very unhappy about it. So people, what they do, if they need to collaborate, they bring their personal computer, they open their Google account, and they share a Google Doc. And they put crazy sensitive data in there to be able to work together across organization. So the first, so I was on the slide before, sorry. Yeah, I was on the why. Yeah. Anyway, so that's why we did it. We basically, there is another context, but the shadow IT was a problem, so the DINUM was tasked to tackle shadow IT in the government and kind of like propose a solution that would be sovereign and made by the states. But also there are like other reasons, like, you know, it's scarier now to rely on Microsoft for your state duties because, you know, GAFAM and Trump are now super friends. We have a French judge in the ICC who was like locked out of all of his accounts because he made a decision against Netanyahu. And this guy said, okay, so now I can't work and I'm a judge from the ICC. So this is really crazy when you think about it. And so, you know, you talked about exit. Maybe Silicon Valley is not thinking about exit now, and governments are really thinking about like, how the hell do we exit from Microsoft? Like, really. So, and when you think of it, it's not really exiting from Microsoft because Microsoft is really crappy. It was meant 20 years ago. It's not online. It's when you want to share something, it's made to share a PDF. Microsoft is really bad at making online software and collaboration as well. And what you want people to move from is not from Microsoft to another silo. It's from Microsoft to a place where you can collaborate with anyone you need to. So yeah, now I can get the next slide. So one thing that the team realizes that in order to do that, you need like one place, one app where people can register, and you also need a federated identity for public agents, because otherwise you can't work together. So luckily we did that with France Connect. There's like 50 million French on France Connect. It's the centralized ID of citizens. So we forked that and we made that for public agents. So all the SSOs of everywhere in the state are now centralized in something that is called ProConnect. And now when you click on a button on an app, you have a unified login that allows people to collaborate. And then what we realized also, a lot of the open source work on making digital workplaces is not really reusable by the state because of two reasons. First, it's not really scalable because it's made by fairly small companies, and all of these small companies have been building suites, meaning they didn't really focus on making really one product really well. They focused on offering like an alternative to Microsoft, and that didn't really work well. So we said we're going to make tapas. Tapas is small apps that do one thing well, and we are going to interconnect them. So the opposite of French cuisine. And basically, how we did it, we said, okay, let's not be crazy about our budget. Let's take a boring stack, so Django, React, and so next slide, and let's take the work of the open source community that is doing the heavy lifting. And on the next slide, you will see that there are a bunch of libraries that didn't exist 10 years ago that now exist. So, and a bunch of standards that have been adopted, so OIDC for authentications, WOP for editing office documents online. Now you can really use Kubernetes and Helm. You can use Agile in government because for 10 years in France there is the beta program, so it's easier. So there is a better idea of how to do software in the government. And we decided to reuse, so it's not the slide I was expecting, but it's okay. If maybe I can get the next one. No, the next one. Yes, so these are the guys who are doing the hard work. They are all small maintainers, but not LiveKit. LiveKit is a big American open source. But Block.js is an NLNet project, which is doing like a Notion-like editor, is relying on YJS, which is like real-time collaborative technology, which is like just one guy in Germany, and is take the math of like config resolution real-time and made it easy to integrate into an app. LiveKit is just like, it's a really powerful library for video conferencing, but kind of the technical side, and I'm sure you all know Matrix and Element for encrypted chat. And they are doing the heavy stuff, and we're just doing wrappers around it, like the backend for the fine-grained permissions, authentication, the unified search and stuff like that, stuff that is easier to do. So maybe if I can get the next one. So as we are the state, well, we need to be secure. So everything is running on Secnum Cloud. It's audited by the National Security Agency. So when you think about it, it's like, I'm not sure even Silicon Valley has these requirements. And it's a lot of work to do this. But as we are the states, we need to do that. And of course, one thing I didn't expecting when I came to work for the state is that publication, they will be really reluctant about AI. They're afraid it's going to be replaced by it. They're not philosophically aligned with it. And guess what? Public agents, they're crazy about AI. Also, because all of the procedures that you need the state to operate on, all the legal text, all the what happens if I'm a fiscal resident in here and here and here, it's all in the models already. So if you're a public agent, LLM, and that's it, you get your response and you can work with that. So they are really crazy about AI. So you have to have an answer about AI for public agents, and basically, you run your own LLM gateway. You take models and you integrate it with a chatbot, but also native features inside the tools. And then the next one, I thought about that. Next one, please. And what's funny is that France is not alone at trying to do this. Germany is very politically advanced at like realizing, okay, Microsoft dependence is the real problem. The Netherlands are also like very advanced politically on like, why do we need sovereign tech? And France actually signed a partnership with these two states. The stuff that you see online with the flags and directors tying a piece of paper. But that actually is important because then it allows people like me to work with the Germans and the Netherlands people. So actually, we are building we have a bunch of apps in common that we will use, a Matrix, Open Exchange, and Docs is it's become a popular product in the open source world. It's built with Germany. Germany is financing the libraries, and we are doing the boring stuff like Django and everything. So if I can get the next one. And one thing is that's interesting is that when you're a state doing software, a lot of people are not happy, namely the private sector. They say, we already did this, why are you doing this? It's very hard because you have to say, well, you did it, but I need it to scale, I need it to be this way and this way and this way. And there is a lot of people attacking the French state because they say, you're killing the private competition, you're taking jobs from us, and everything. And the response to that is that, look, we chose MIT license. You can even close the code. You can do business with it. We don't care, and we are trying to actively foster private reuse so that, it's not about attacking us. It's about like who will get first to reuse that and make a profitable business out of the stuff that the state is investing into. So yeah, the next one. So I told about what it is. So these are the apps that are in there. This is not like a prototype. This is like powering the life of publication for close to 400,000 people monthly. And it's a real reality. And it was fast to build. because, as I told you, the building blocks are there. You can do something about it really now. We're all investing in that. You can install. It's not that hard. And the hardest push is to say, okay, I'm installing this and I'm slowly migrating people out of Microsoft. Yes, so the next one. So the second part I want to talk about is that what happens when the state does open source? There's no like many state-owned repositories that are super popular on GitHub. And we really wanted to be popular on GitHub, and we wanted community adoption, and we wanted developer and all the people that make the commons involvement, because what it is like to work at Decidim, and you know that France has a very unstable political context now, Germany too, is basically every month or so they are saying they are going to shut down the project. Someone is, not our director, but someone is saying, I'm going to kill that because it's not business friendly, and we're like, okay. So what's the resilience of it is the open source community. So if I can get the next one. So we set up the projects in this way. We didn't do it, we were not doing like things hidden. We said like, we're going to have a kick-ass README, we're going to welcome contribution, we're going to have bug bounties, we're going to write documentation, we're going to have community challenge, a bit like what Decidim is doing. Decidim is a huge inspiration on that. And guess what? If I can get the next, it actually, you know, it actually worked. Like if I can get the next one, Docs was on the front page of Hacker News, and this resulted on a huge spike. The Americans were really happy to see Europe do that. Like there is a comment, they say, Europe is doing really cool stuff, and it feels that the US is snorting crack in the alley. You know, Hacker News stuff. And we're getting a lot of contributors from the US and from Europe, but we're also doing like hackathons to invite people. We are contributing to the libraries we rely on. We are going to free software event to say, hey, there it is, and you can contribute. And I will be finishing soon, don't worry. Sorry, if I can get the rest. And the last part I want to say is that, so you can advance, but there is a lot of interest in digital commons from the public institutions. They say, yeah, it's the third way, you know, like it's not Silicon Valley, it's not Chinese or Russian tech. In the Europe, we are like super good because we invented Bluetooth, and we have Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and we're the one building this, and they are taking all of this from us and reselling it to us. Yet, a lot of people who are talking about this, they are not actually contributing to the commons, and to common, you know, is understanding what it is a common. And if I can get the next slide. So in Wikipedia, there are 0.04% editors. So the knowledge that we all share is edited by these guys. It's clearly not enough. And the last thing so infrastructure looks like this. You know, this guy in Nebraska, if he gets sick, everyone is not doing okay. And the last thing I want to say is this: if we want this to be the third way, yes, please an advocate, please be a policy people that say commons are important, but also please try to make a contribution, understand that governance is not that hard. It's people talking on GitHub and on forums, and please have a strategy to have more and more diverse people contributing. Let's get from 0.04% to 0.1, you know? Just this would be amazing. And that's my last word, yeah.
Thank you so much for the good work, and I have to say that in any Digital Public Goods Alliance meeting that I go, governments from Africa, Latin America, and so on, it's like, how can we get last suite? How can we be part of this? How can we, this is what we need, you know, like how can we multiply, localize, and so on? And it is designed for sharing, so that's the exciting part. It's like Decidim, you know, designed for sharing, designed to scale, designed to serve as many as possible, and involve as many as possible, so it's very exciting. You said something very interesting on Microsoft, and I will start the second round, and I will start with you using that Microsoft doesn't do that many things very well, But that hit me with because Microsoft does something. One thing that they do really well is that they write the rules. They write the procurement rules, basically. And they write many times the trade rules. They are heavily involved in Brussels and Washington, making sure that any and every government and local government have hands tight in the procurement, in the decisions that we they get all the contracts, they get many, many contracts. They're not the only ones, and there are more perverse forces taking over, defense and health rapidly over Europe, but they do that very well. And the other thing that they do very well is to offer a super finalized product where people do not have any say in the design. It's plug and play, it's ready-made, it is, you deploy it here. Now, you in Spain are trying to do the things differently. And you presented these different layers, not only for business, but for universities and so on, to have sovereign on your knowledge and have a different ecosystem of AI. Something that you didn't explain that I would like to know more, because here we have the experts on that, is the governance. Mm-hmm. So something that in the past talk that was mentioned is that there's no possible democratic technology without communities, without the people having an active voice in shaping from the roadmap, a technological roadmap, to decisions of we will not go in this direction because of other social constraints rather than technical ones. So how can we make that this exciting public AI project becomes also the model of a truly democratic and participatory AI?
That was an easy question. To be honest with you, so there is so the governance is also a matter that it's important for the government of Spain. So during the Spanish presidency of the Council of the European Union, I don't know if you know, but we were leading many of the legislations and adopting many of the legislations that we have to implement today, like, for example, the AI regulation. The previous Secretary of State, who I was advising to, we were in that room for 36 hours in order to finalize the AI regulation obligations with 100 people from the Commission and the Council. And I must tell you that that's the way that you... Adios. That's the way, I think there is some hijacking. So I believe that's the way, like putting rules on how we produce technology, how we apply technology in our societies is the way that Europe it's intending to fight back that type of dominance that you refer to, and ensuring that those processes are as participatory as possible. I don't know, maybe you don't know, but like the regulation on AI, for example, had a public consultation in the very beginning that had I don't know, like more than 5,000 contributions or 50,000 contributions. It was a massive amount of input that the Commission received at that time. We had implemented that regulation, for example, with another another law in the Spanish legal system, and that also had a number of participatory processes for people to tell. The issue is that, okay, now we have the regulation, so how do we build things that support that essence of the regulation, which is ensuring that the benefits come to all? And with that, the open source communities, for example, what we are seeing is that we need not an entity, but like a group of people that are really engaged into ensuring that the protocols are put in place, that those protocols are somehow followed, and that whatever is built on this open source AI community, it's also checked against, for example, this regulation or against the benefits that it may have, or even the bias that can have on certain communities.
Would you be then open to innovation in ALIA to have, for example, a similar, very participatory model on governing ALIA itself through the process? Like, not only participating in the regulation and then having a technical committee, but having more people, not only AI experts, but people that are like a more diverse group in the governance of ALIA.
Totally. What we try to do with this open source AI community is to build on the people that are already in the ecosystem. So we don't want to create something new. We don't want to come as the government and this is how we are going to do open source. We are going to talk to the people who are already doing open source and we are going to somehow task them to help us bring this to reality. So that will mean creating as well the rules for that community, the governance of that community. I don't know, the Decidim, the system that you have, for example, in order to bring people together could be an excellent tool in order to make this happen. But also other forms of, like for example, we are partnering as well with Talent Arena and La Fundación Mobile World Capital. Talent Arena, it's an event that happened for the first time last year. I don't know if some of you went. It was 25,000 developers getting together in order to talk about doing stuff. We want to partner with them in order to bring that community into those ecosystems so that it gets bigger and stronger.
Francesca, I will follow with you if, and please add to any response to the rounds as well. But if you were, appointed and given, state of emergency absolute powers, appointed the digital main authority in any country in Europe, imaginary country, even not to hurt any susceptibilities, what would be what is the most urgent task to move, to move into meaningful change and shift in the digital sovereignty landscape now?
I guess absolute power we do not want, so don't worry about that. Yeah, I think there was one thing that struck me during the very good presentations. So it was, I think you said something like, oh, this is like the critical infrastructure we are depending on is one guy in Germany somewhere. And then, if I think, and I know pretty well what's happening in Germany at the moment, the biggest initiative, which is the Sovereign Tech Fund, aligned with what you're doing in the ministry in France, has 20 million investment by the government. So now, it's a little bit, I just want to make this clear. We are saying that we're building robust, democratic technology and infrastructure from the state, collaborating, of course, with the ecosystem, with open source patchwork. Some of it's managed by a guy in Germany, and we're putting maybe a thought, I don't know how much money it goes to Decidim, a few millions in the pockets. Yeah. So, and then we have the bad guys, building the $1 trillion. Obviously, this is not okay. This is not okay. And I think it's not okay because we are serious about it, And I don't want to, I think it's great, this open source approach. And I think a lot of the infrastructure shouldn't be built from scratch, but it should be built from the open source infrastructure that's available. But let's don't be naive also about that. Because you cannot have investment of state money into maybe an infrastructure that is controlled by Microsoft, right? Like GitHub. So, and I think the point that I see even more worrying is that the AI moment we are in is redefining full-on the entire stack. So while we're talking about specific freedom and libraries and things, while we are talking, the entire compute infrastructure, from the rare earth to the chips that we required, to the GPUs, to the models, to everything, is being rewired by the forces that we talked about it before. So I think basically that we have to move from government experiments, putting a few millions, into a proper industrial policy that is serious about losing dependency from at least in the critical infrastructure part of the stack. And this is, to losing dependency, I don't want to talk about it too much, but Europe is dependent 80% of any digital tools we use is foreign, I mean, it's in foreign hands. Yes, 80%. So it's a lot. I mean, it's really too much, yes? So I think, for me, we have to be serious about the critical infrastructure part. And so we have to start saying that it is hard, for example, to compete on sovereign cloud with the hyperscalers, but at least in the critical infrastructure, the cloud should be sovereign, not as sovereignty washing. So if NVIDIA is selling you sovereign AI, please do not call it sovereign. So never a minister of a state go on top with the leather jacket guy, the CEO of NVIDIA, and say that this is sovereign AI. Forbidden. It's not sovereign. I mean, it's built with NVIDIA chips. Is it true that we do not have alternatives? So, of course, we are using what we have, but that's not sovereign. Google Cloud is not sovereign cloud. It's Google Cloud. Microsoft, cloud is not sovereign cloud. Palantir sovereign military is not sovereign military, it's Palantir. So I think there is a big problem there. And I think, so the three things that I think should happen is, first of all, we have to be serious about investment. So we cannot say that the good guys get 20 million and then we invest 40 billion in NVIDIA chips, signing a trade deal with Trump. This is not okay. So I think we have to go to a point where Europe entirely is committing at least 50% of their procurement. Yes, I'm sorry, this dirty word. Arnau knows how much, and anybody, Galapin, how much we worked on procurement. Why? Because procurement is what we buy with public money. It's what we buy with taxpayers' money. So we want to get to a point that if we invest 40 billion in NVIDIA chips because we have no alternative, we invest 60% more in alternatives. European alternative chips, like the one that the supercomputing centers are building in Barcelona, because we're going to bet on the future. And this is very simple. I mean, procurement rules that allow for real sovereign alternatives, 50% at least needs to be European by 2030. This is something very simple. Then investment, we have to balance what we give to the hyperscalers and the big tech companies because we don't have alternatives. So I want the procurement guys to tell us, we are buying those because we have no alternatives in Europe. If we do have alternatives, we're going to invest in the alternatives. And my final point is, in the meantime, that we build these alternatives and we make sure that procurement allow for that, and the WTO rules are, and we account for the WTO rules because at this point, only Europe is following these WTO rules. So Donald Trump is like export control, banning. Do you know who owns Intel? So Donald Trump just bought 15% shares of Intel are from the US government. This means that the US government is the first shareholders of Intel at the moment. Yes? And now that they're buying all the different shares, these companies, at the end of the day, we need to know that those technologies that we're using, Donald Trump, with an executive order, can cut us off critical infrastructures that we're using. I mean, this is serious. So I just want to go back to a conversation where this is great, the open source and the patchwork and the millions, but this is really not enough in this moment. And while we do that we fix the procurement, do we need to have champions and merging things and we want state aid? I'm in favor, by the way. I just want to say this to the Spanish government, because we do need, maybe we don't need only open source community. Maybe Europe needs a big public company, right? European, that is going to be able to implement these things. Because, we cannot, can you do it alone here with the open source? Can you really scale? Why this doesn't scale? Because we need something that scale, and so we need to think bigger. And finally, while we do that, we forbid Palantir, don't want to name anyone, to enter critical mission services of the state. No healthcare, no police, no education, no immigration control, no welfare, controlled by a security company like Palantir, that at this moment is expelling mass migration, immigrants, deciding on the future of citizenship in a post-democratic way. Since this is happening in Europe, we need to stop that while we build the alternatives. That's how I see it. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, and bravo. And I would like to give Virgile the opportunity on this plan, on these priorities. What do you see? What do you agree with? What do you see missing? And anything that you would like to add in this sense of urgency?
Well, I like to be more nuanced, and I know that I know the EuroStack report, and it's looking at different parts of what do we need to be digitally autonomous. I don't like the sovereignty word because far-right friends like it. But
they don't do it.
I think it's about autonomy. I think it means a different thing for them.
Yeah.
I think autonomy is a cool word, and we should use it more. And, you know, like, of course, it won't be free software activists who will build a chip factory. I agree, it's true. Like, do a big Airbus consortium for that, you know? We also need like large cloud providers, and today it's very divided. So what can we do so that we have fusion in this sector? And you know, there is some stuff that we did in the telecom sector that we could do for the cloud sector. But I do not, and I think where I think we need to be more nuanced is on the software level. We certainly need more money. I agree. But I think we need to realize what is open source. Open source is not like, you know, 50 guys doing one very complex thing. Like even the open source that is used in the GAFAM corporation, it relies on basically a few maintainers who are doing the hard things, and they open sourcing this Kubernetes or very complex technology is soft power. You know, we realize that, but it doesn't mean you can't use that soft power. It's about standardization, like how we do things. But we can reuse things. What's dangerous is just reusing. Yeah. So I would think that what's crucial is that understanding. Okay, it's not that hard to have an impact on the open source ecosystem, because it's the 0.04%. It's not that many people, and we have good university system. We have really highly educated people. How do we get them to contribute to that? How do we bring back technical capacity to public offices? Because I do not agree that I need a Euro champion to do my digital workspace, because we are centralizing again, and the country that is hosting that company will be very happy. What about the other EU country? So I really think that it's about like getting more contributors, getting involved in those projects, and governance will be ugly, but at least we will be a part of it and defending what's happening, because at the software level, that's where the data is handled, and that's where you have control as well. Of course, the infrastructure is important, but what operates the infrastructure is the software. So getting more people inside the government that are highly capable, and I think we can do it, because now who wants to go work at GAFAM? Who wants that? Sure, they pay a lot, but is it still the dream? You know, like I'm meeting a lot of young developers. It's not the dream anymore. They want to do cool stuff that is not going to oppress people. They are informed, they are engaged, and they want to work for the good. And I think we have stuff to offer them. I think the US has less possibility to offer them, and I think a bunch of really talented people are going to come to Europe because there are possibilities here to do cool things that is progressive, that is not trying to weaponize technology against people. And I think we can do it. We are like 400 million here. We are the most developed countries in the world. I mean, like, and we get 0.1% people to do the open source work that we need, and we'll probably be fine. The infrastructure is another story. That's why I think we need to be nuanced. So, like, what we can do with bits and with one and zeros, and what we can't, and where we need like regulation on the procurement, and where we need to be bold on like building big Europe companies. And like, I agree with you on that point. And we won't be truly sovereign if we don't have that. And COVID showed us that. In France, we weren't even able to do masks. We didn't have Doliprane, you know, like, so it's not just digital, it's like everything.
Thank you. We are almost out of time. Can I take 2 questions from the audience?
Renata, I also have one little point
Yes,
before
please.
we start the
Yeah.
questions, because the investment is an important thing, and sometimes you are looking always at the government to have the investment and to be the ones investing. So the government of Spain has a public-private venture capital fund with 4 billion euros. That's in Spanish, 4.000 millones de euros. We don't find the private investment to co-invest in this fund. I mean, the digital sovereignty is not just a matter of the public sector investing in companies. This is also a matter of companies of Europe also investing in their companies and co-investing with us and ensuring that those companies in these SMEs, these startups grow and get big with a common joint project. This is not just public sector, this is public sector and private sector and all going for the same direction. And I wanted to clarify that because sometimes we feel that the public sector needs to invest much more money, and then we have so much money and it's really difficult for us to disburse it because there is no co-investor from the private sector available.
Thank you for the clarification. Can we take with very short answers, 2 questions from the public? One over there and one here. Yes. Yes, please. Do I have to? Aquí está. Over there. Atrás.
Hi, thanks for the talk. There's a lot of bad blockchain projects out there, but there's some really interesting public goods work, projects like NIM, VPN, Filecoin. Could that be a way of financing and supporting the development of digital platforms going forward when we don't necessarily trust even European states?
I will take the 2 questions at once, and so we do a quick round of replies. The other person was around here. Here. Yes.
Thank you. How do you foresee the challenges in the governance, in the governance of future digital commons? Because this is also a topic of concern here. Not only funding and precisely. How can states support autonomous governance of digital commons?
Thank you. Let's go for a round, and you feel free to answer one or both, each of you. What do you prefer?
About the first question, I don't know. I'm really excited about like. I think we should aim always for more decentralization because it's healthy. And I'm excited about like the local first movement in the open source ecosystem, who's trying to like re-put the data inside people's computer, and I think that's a good thing. I don't know if blockchain projects are like a good idea to go there, but local first, I think it's a cool movement happening. And regarding governance of commons, I think we should look at Decidim because they did the hard move of going out of the city, making an association, having people from all around the world being involved, doing the hard work of like trying to find rules that make everyone happy, to get people involved in like how the tool is shaped, in getting many perspectives represented. So, you know, like, and they do a lot of things. Like they do they try to bring women coder in the Decidim project, but because there are not enough. There is a research group that studies the impact of the technology on, you know, the society and things. So I think Decidim is definitely like a cool project to look because they're at the avant-garde, like you said, in what's doing, because governance of like free software, you know it, like there is like the benevolent dictator. Then sometimes you get a foundation. So you know, like the governance that we saw like in the past 20 years maybe needs to be reinvented. But I do really think that you know, we won't have a choice, because in front you have like the guys who are doing like, I'm one person deciding how things are run. Yeah.
Just can you summarize it in one word?
We need to do multi-stakeholder things, basically.
Thank you.
But I also, I mean, after what you say already, there's very little room to add on. But on the governance, which is the part that I like most, I mean, there is an issue. The governance can only be maintained if there is funding behind. And what we've seen with open source communities is that sometimes there is a company that actually brings in that open source community and somehow capitalizes on it and controls it. I think the place of the state is important in all these communities, but also we need to ensure that there is some kind of vehicle. The one that you have created with the association might be the way. Another way might be through the companies that may end up using your system, that they bring back a fair share of what they have gained into the governance of that open source community. I think that will be an interesting thing. And also looking at, there is, for example, at the UN, there is a number of principles for governing digital commons. Maybe we need to also look more at international level, because the scale is important in this type of communities to make it happen.
Yeah, no, just quickly, maybe this edict that you created on digital commons, which is basically, I mean, it's a legal entity created at a European level. I think Spain should join.
We're looking into it.
Yeah, and that would be at least like a good thing with money, because again, like I mean, like we need to put investment.
You can't join without money.
Yeah, but not like, yeah, but there are ways to, you know, there are ways to say, we put money that we are already putting there. I mean, you know, like not this creative stuff, like put actual money. And then there is where the experiments about the governance should happen. Because I think, you know, the state has a role, but they can't, I mean, they also cannot get into other things. I think the open source community has like, of course, its role, but also industry will have their role. And I think, you know, you need to make it work with a thing, but it's already something that there is a legal entity that allow for that, to have digital commons creating the alternatives in Europe. I think this is a very good achievement. So maybe we can use that space to make something working and happening.
Thank you so much, and sorry that we got a little bit of your time of lunch. Let's hope that this conversation does not stay in Europe. It's a global conversation. And I think that as we have seen this morning, there are many possibilities outside the European borders, and there's also big communities ready to innovate, act, and contribute to implementing commons-based democratic digital future as opposed to the technocratic one. Thank you.
Thank you, Renata.